Hey class, this is Mr. Stumbaugh. Today we are doing Chapter 2, Lesson 6, 2-6, Ratios and Proportions. And in bright red letters, this is the most commonly used lesson in real life. All of you that are going to ask, when am I going to use this in real life? This lesson you will use more than anything else. And I'll tell you why. When you're at the grocery store and you see the unit price trying to figure out which is the better deal, how much bang for the buck can I get, and still, make a good deal. This is the lesson you use. When we talk about ratios, you'll see them expressed either x to y, like that, x colon y, like that, or the one we'll probably most commonly use is x over y in fraction form. So if I have 15,000 cookies and 2,500 people, I want to figure out what is my cookie to people ratio. It could be 15,000 cookies to 2,500 people. I can simplify some just by crossing off these two zeros and going 150 cookies to 25 people. Or if I put it in the calculator, it will tell me I have 6 cookies for every one person. And when you see two ratios that are equal, they are called proportion. So our 150 to 25 is the same as 6 to 1, is the same as 12 over 2, is the same as 30 to 5, is the same as 60 to 10. And all of these are equal with each other. So 150 is the same, 150 over 25 is the same as 12 over 2. 150 over 25 is the same as 30 over 5. 12 over 2 is the same as 60 over 10. All of these are proportion to each other. Your instructions will say, determine whether a couple fractions are equivalent ratios. In this case, 2/3 and 16 over 24. The easiest thing to do is plug this into a calculator and it will simplify for you. Plug in 2/3, hit enter. Plug in 2/3 and hit enter and it will spit out 2/3. If you plug in, excuse that please. If you plug in 16 over 24 in the calculator, it's going to spit out 2/3. So yes, these two are proportionate. But remember this. Even though this is mostly done in the calculator, you must show what you are plugging into the calculator to get full credit. So on the homework, if we just see a whole bunch of yes and no's, then you're not going to get full credit. Make sure you write down what you plugged into the calculator. So in this case, 6 over 10 in the calculator spits out 3 over 5, and 2 over 5 in the calculator spits out 2 over 5. No, these are not equivalent. 1 over 6 in the calculator spits out 1/6. 5 over 30 spits out 1/6. Those are the same. Yes, these are proportions. Now, talking about means, extremes, properties of proportions. Basically, if A over B equals C over D, basically if our two proportions are equal, and B and D do not equal 0, then when you multiply A and D, it will equal the multiplication of B and C. Basically, if they're equal, when you cross multiply, they will be equal. So if we have 2 over 4 and 7 over 14, cross multiply and put this the top number of your left over here with the bottom number of the right, and the bottom number of the left and the top of the right over here. If they are not even, it will tell you which one is bigger. In this case, 2 times 14 is 28, and we want to know if 4 times 7 is 28. They do equal, they are the same. Here we have 2 over 3.5 and 8 over 14. So we do 2 times 14 here on the left, and 3.5 times 8 over here on the right. 28 equals 28. Those are equivalent. In this case, we have 0.3 over 1.5 and 0.5 over 2.0. When we multiply 0.3 with 2.0, we put that here on the left, and 1.5 with 0.5 on the right. You multiply this in the calculator, you get 0.6. You multiply this in the calculator, you get 0.75. No, they are not proportions, and because this number is bigger over here, we know that this fraction will be bigger when simplified. All right, the next part will say solve each proportion, also known as cross multiply, then divide. So if you have x over 10 equals 3 over 5, and we're trying to find out what x is, cross multiply 5x equals 10 times 3. 10 times 3 is 30. This is 5x. This is definitely a one-step equation, which we did last Thursday and Friday. Divide both sides by 5. You'll find out x equals 6. Now, when you have something like this, we still cross multiply and divide, but you're going to want to put this x minus 2 in parentheses. We have x minus 2 over 14 equals 2 over 7. So x minus 2 goes in parentheses, and then the 7 that we're multiplying by equals 14 times 2. When we distribute the 7, we have 7x, and we have negative 14. And then when we multiply this together, we get 28. Now we have a two-step equation, which is what Monday and Tuesday were all about. So we add 14, because it's not connected to this variable, to both sides. This becomes 42, and we're left with 7x. Now it's down to a one-step equation. Divide both sides by 7, x equals 6. Now, when you get to these word problems, they're going to make you set them up. And when you set these ratios up, it doesn't really matter what numbers go on top and what numbers go on bottom, as long as the numerators have the same units and the denominators have the same units, and make sure that you got the right proportions together. Generally, they will be in the same sentence. This first sentence says, in the past 2 years, a retailer has opened up 232 stores. Those units, or those proportions, go together when we do our ratio over here. If the rate of growth remains, comma, how many is our variable, how many stores will the retailer open in the next 3 years? So when we set it up, remember 232 and 2 goes together. 232 stores over 2 years equals how many stores we want to know over 3 years. When we cross multiply, then divide, 232 times 3, we'll put it on this side so our variable can stay over here, 2 times x over here. This is 232 times 3, you get 696, and 2x over here. Now we just have a one-step equation. Divide by 2, x equals 348, so your answer should read, they will open 348 stores in the next 3 years. Now over here in red, I'm showing you that if we put 2 years and 3 years on top, and 232 stores and x number of stores on the bottom, when you cross multiply, you still get 2 times x and 3 times 232. And then we're back to here, and you're solving. As long as the units on top are the same and the units on bottom are the same, it doesn't matter which way you go. Now we need to talk about scale and scale models. The instructions will say the scale on the map says 3 inches equals 10 miles. And the distance from point A to point B is about 1 1/8 inches. What is the actual length from A to B? Well, our scale says 3 inches is the same as 10 miles, so our scale and our actual. And we need to know how much 1 1/8 is to the actual length. Scale on top, actual length on bottom. Cross multiply. 3 times L. 10 times 1 1/8. That becomes 45 over 4 equals 3L. This is a one-step equation. Divide by 3, divide by 3, plug this into the calculator. You can most definitely divide a fraction by a regular number. Let me show you. 45 over 4, 45 over 4, divided by 3, and it will spit out your answer. Make sure you use your fraction button. It's this n over d right here. 45 over 4 divided by 3. It makes things so much easier than trying to flip fractions and all that stuff. So it gave us 15 over 4, or changing it into a mixed number, 3 3/4 miles. In word problems, and it wants to know the length, make sure you put the units. Otherwise, it will not be full credit. Your homework is page 114, 2 through 40, the evens. Make sure you show your work if you want full credit. Save.